On a cold, foggy night, Angela stumbles upon a desolate train station, its chilling aura intensified by tales of passengers who vanished without a trace. As she ventures deeper, eerie sounds and shadowy figures begin to blur the line between reality and the supernatural. Join Angela on a journey where each step forward plunges her further into an abyss of terror and secrets. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. Angela's breath formed tiny, cloud-like puffs in the biting autumn air as she made her way toward the old train station. Her trusty camera hung from her neck, ready to capture the remnants of this forgotten relic. The journey to the outskirts of the town had been unnervingly quiet, with only the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl for company. The station loomed ahead, cloaked in an almost ethereal mist that clung to the ground. Rusted tracks snaked into the darkness, disappearing as though they led to another realm entirely. A shiver ran down Angela's spine, both from the cold and the stories she'd heard about this place. Stories of passengers who boarded trains here and were never seen again. As she stepped onto the platform, her flashlight cut through the darkness, illuminating faded posters and broken benches. The metallic scent of damp iron filled the air, mixed with the faint odor of decay. Every creak of the warped wood underfoot made her heart jump, but she pressed on, driven by a blend of curiosity and determination. The inside of the station was even more foreboding. Dust caked every surface, and spiderwebs hung like ghostly drapes. Angela moved cautiously, her senses heightened by the oppressive silence. She paused at an old ticket booth, now just a shell of its former self. The stillness was unnerving, but it was the strange scratches on the walls that caught her eye. They seemed almost deliberate, as if someone or something had desperately clawed at the plaster. Click! The sound of her camera echoed in the empty space as she captured the image of a dark corridor that stretched further into the building. The rhythmic tapping that followed was faint, but unmistakable, sending a jolt of fear through her. She swallowed hard and moved toward the sound, her flashlight casting long, flickering shadows. As Angela entered a disused waiting room, her flashlight revealed a scene frozen in time's scattered belongings, hinting at lives abruptly interrupted. A torn scarf lay draped over a rusty chair, a pocket watch rested on the floor, and an old suitcase sat ajar, its contents spilling out like a silent cry for help. The tapping grew louder, accompanied now by faint whispers that seemed to seep from the walls. Angela's pulse quickened, and she strained to make out the words. Click! Her flash captured a fleeting glimpse of the room, and in that brief moment, she saw a shadowy figure hunched in the corner, its head slowly turning toward her. The light faded, plunging her back into darkness as the whispers turned into a low, guttural growl. Angela's hands trembled as she fumbled with her flashlight, the beam unsteady as she aimed it toward the corner. The figure was gone, but the sense of being watched lingered, pressing down on her like a physical weight. She took a deep breath and forced herself to move forward, each step echoing in the oppressive silence. Corridor ahead seemed endless, each door she passed adding to the sense of unease. The walls were adorned with old posters and signs, their messages long faded. She paused at a door, slightly ajar, the wood splintered as if it had been forced open. Angela hesitated, then pushed it open with the tip of her flashlight. The room beyond was small and cluttered, filled with broken furniture and discarded papers. Her eyes were drawn to a desk in the corner, an old journal lying open on its surface. She approached cautiously, the whispers now a constant murmur in the background. The journal's pages were yellowed with age, the ink faded but still legible. November 12, 1953, the entry began. Strange occurrences continue. Passengers missing. The station master is worried, but refuses to close the station. The townsfolk are scared. Angela's fingers traced the words as she read on, the entries painting a picture of growing fear and paranoia. The final entry was abrupt, the handwriting shaky and frantic. They've taken more. I can hear them in the walls. If you're reading this, leave now. A chill ran through Angela, and she quickly pocketed the journal, her instincts urging her to get out. But as she turned to leave, a cold hand clamped down on her shoulder, stopping her in her tracks. Her breath caught in her throat as she turned slowly, the beam of her flashlight revealing the shadowy figure standing inches from her, its eyes gleaming with a malevolent light. "Stay," it whispered, its voice a cold breath against her ear. "Stay and discover the truth." Angela's pulse raced, her mind screaming at her to run, but her feet seemed rooted to the spot. The figure's grip tightened, and she could feel the icy chill seeping into her bones. Desperation clawed at her as she struggled to break free, the whispers growing louder and more insistent. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, Angela yanked herself free and bolted for the door, the flashlight's beam bouncing wildly as she ran. The whispers followed her, their tone now angry and urgent. She stumbled down the corridor, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she searched for an exit. In the distance, she saw a faint glimmer of light the way out. She pushed herself harder, the sound of her pounding footsteps drowned out by the cacophony of whispers and growls. As she reached the platform, she could feel the presence behind her, a dark force pressing in on all sides. Angela's heart pounded in her chest as she raced toward the exit, the oppressive darkness closing in around her. Her flashlight flickered and died, leaving her in total darkness. She felt a cold breeze brush past her, and the whispers seemed to be right next to her ear. Panic surged through her, but she forced herself to keep moving. She burst through the station doors and into the open air, the cold night breeze a welcome relief against her flushed skin. She didn't stop running until she reached her car, her hands trembling as she fumbled with the keys. As the engine roared to life, Angela glanced back at the station, its shadowy silhouette barely visible through the mist. Her mind raced with questions as she drove away, the journal resting on the passenger seat, a haunting reminder of the night's events. What had she stumbled upon? What was the truth behind the disappearances? And most importantly, what would she do next? As the first light of dawn began to break on the horizon, Angela knew she couldn't let it go. She had to find out what had happened at that station, no matter the cost. The truth was out there, waiting to be uncovered, and she was determined to discover it. Angela couldn't shake the events of the previous night as she pored over the journal entries at her kitchen table. Each page seemed to reveal more questions than answers, and the sense of dread that had gripped her at the train station lingered like a dark shadow. She knew she had to return, but this time she would be better prepared. Armed with a more powerful flashlight, a digital recorder, and a sense of determination, Angela set out for the train station once more. The mist had lifted, but the air was still heavy with an unsettling silence as she approached the building. The daylight did little to ease her anxiety, but she pushed forward, driven by an insatiable need to uncover the truth. Inside, the station felt even more oppressive than before. The dust and decay seemed to have deepened overnight, and the scratches on the walls appeared more pronounced. Angela made her way back to the waiting room, her footsteps echoing in the stillness. She had to find out what had happened to the passengers and what the shadowy figure wanted her to discover. The waiting room was just as she had left it, the scattered belongings untouched. Angela set up her digital recorder on a nearby bench and began speaking softly into the microphone. "I'm back at the station, trying to piece together the events that took place here. The journal mentions strange occurrences and passengers going missing. I'll document everything I find." As she moved through the room, Angela noticed something she hadn't seen the night before, a small door partially hidden behind a pile of debris. With a sense of trepidation, she cleared away the rubble and pushed the door open. The narrow staircase beyond descended into darkness, the air growing colder with each step she took. The basement was a maze of corridors and rooms, each more foreboding than the last. Angela's flashlight revealed old storage crates, broken furniture, and scattered papers that hinted at the station's past. The whispers had returned, growing louder and more urgent as she ventured deeper into the labyrinth. In one of the rooms, Angela discovered an old filing cabinet, its drawers hanging open and spilling their contents onto the floor. She rifled through the papers, her heart racing as she uncovered records of passengers who had disappeared. The entries were detailed, listing names, dates, and descriptions of the missing individuals. Each file ended abruptly, with no indication of what had happened to the passengers. The whispers grew louder, and Angela felt a presence behind her. She turned quickly, her flashlight illuminating the shadowy figure once more. This time, it didn't retreat into the darkness. Instead, it seemed to beckon her, its eyes glinting with an otherworldly light. Angela's pulse quickened, but she steeled herself and followed the figure down another corridor. The walls were lined with old photographs and newspaper clippings, documenting the station's history. As she passed each image, she felt a chill, as if the eyes in the photos were watching her. The corridor ended at a heavy wooden door, its surface covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly in the flashlight's beam. Angela hesitated, her hand trembling as she reached for the handle. The whispers had become a cacophony, a chorus of voices urging her to uncover the truth. With a deep breath, Angela pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room beyond was vast and empty, its walls lined with more photographs and clippings. In the center of the room stood an old, ornate mirror, its surface covered in a thick layer of dust. As she approached the mirror, Angela's reflection flickered and distorted, the glass seeming to ripple like water. The whispers grew louder, now clearly audible in her mind. "The mirror holds the truth," they seemed to say. "Look into the mirror and see." Angela wiped away the dust with a trembling hand. But as she stared into the glass, she saw not herself, but the shadowy figure standing behind her. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and its hand reached out, touching her shoulder through the reflection. A surge of fear and adrenaline coursed through her, but she couldn't look away. The figure's grip tightened, and she felt a coldness spreading through her body. The whispers crescendoed, their message clear and undeniable. "The passengers are trapped in the mirror. Free them." Angela's mind raced as she tried to comprehend what she was seeing. The shadowy figure was not an enemy, but a guide, showing her the way to uncover the truth. She had to release the trapped souls. But how? The mirror seemed to pulse with energy, drawing her in. Summoning all her courage, Angela reached out and touched the surface of the mirror. The glass felt cold and unyielding at first, but then it began to give, her hand sinking into the reflective surface as if it were a pool of liquid silver. She felt a strange sensation, as if her very essence was being drawn into the mirror. Images flashed before her eyes, faces of the missing passengers, their eyes filled with fear and desperation. She saw scenes of their final moments, the terror they experienced as they were pulled into the mirror's depths. Angela's heart ached for them, and she knew she had to free them. With a final push, she plunged her hand deeper into the mirror, feeling a surge of energy as the barrier between worlds began to dissolve. The room filled with a blinding light, and Angela felt herself being pulled into the mirror, her body and mind merging with the souls trapped within. The next thing she knew, she was standing in a strange, shadowy realm, the air thick with an oppressive darkness. The passengers stood around her, their eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. Angela's presence seemed to give them strength, and they moved toward her, seeking her guidance. "We've been trapped here for so long," one of the passengers said, their voice trembling with emotion. "Help us find a way out." Angela nodded, her determination unwavering. She had come this far, and she would not abandon them now. Together, they began to search for a way out of the mirror's realm, their journey fraught with dangers and challenges. As they navigated the dark landscape, Angela felt a growing connection with the passengers, their shared ordeal forging a bond that transcended the boundaries of time and space. She knew that they would need to work together to overcome the obstacles that lay ahead. Hours turned into days, and the passengers' hope began to wane. But Angela refused to give up. She knew that there had to be a way to break the mirror's hold and return to the real world. The key lay in understanding the mirror's power and finding a way to disrupt it. In the depths of the mirror's realm, Angela discovered an ancient tome, its pages filled with cryptic symbols and incantations. The book seemed to hold the secrets of the mirror's power, and as she studied its pages, she began to piece together a plan. "The mirror's power comes from the energy of the trapped souls," Angela explained to the passengers. "We need to disrupt that energy and create a rift that will allow us to escape." With the help of the passengers, Angela set to work, gathering the materials and performing the rituals described in the tome. The process was arduous and dangerous, but they pressed on, driven by the hope of freedom. Finally, the moment came. Angela stood before the mirror, the ancient tome in her hands, and began to recite the incantation. The mirror surface rippled and cracked, the energy within it growing unstable. The passengers stood around her, their hope and fear mingling as they awaited the outcome. As the final words of the incantation left her lips, the mirror shattered, sending shards of glass flying through the air. A blinding light filled the room, and Angela felt herself being pulled back into the real world, the passengers' souls merging with hers as they escaped the mirror's grasp. When she opened her eyes, Angela found herself back in the train station, the wreckage of the mirror scattered around her. The passengers were gone, their souls finally free. She felt a sense of peace and closure, knowing that she had helped them find their way home. As she left the station for the final time, Angela couldn't help but wonder what other mysteries lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. The experience had changed her, and she knew that she would never look at the world the same way again. The end. Thank you for joining Angela on this spine-chilling journey. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon for more thrilling tales.